there, so hopefully this will go smoothly. Listen, we'll fire into it anyway, Kieran.
Perfect.
So listen, coaches, you're very welcome. You're all very welcome tonight. Obviously to our seminar on developing your team's transition play. The one thing I would say to you before we start is that it's a bit like any Zoom. It's very difficult, I think, sometimes coaches to. I think it's sometimes very difficult to get your message across, particularly in something like this, which is transition. So I've tried to make it as interactive and as enjoyable as possible, and particularly with the videos and stuff that I'm going to share as well tonight. And listen, I can send across the PowerPoint when we're finished here. Not a problem at all. Like, so just clicking on. So what do we understand by the term transition play? I suppose all the webinars that I've done, opportunity at the start, just to maybe get us out of the comfort. Do you understand by the term transition play? And we'll use the chat box just for the next 60 seconds or so. We'll use the chat box just to sort of fire some ideas in there, guys. That would be great. So just what do you understand by the term transition play? Anything at all? If there's any buzzwords that come up or anything that you think transition play is, just ping it into the chat box there. Don't be afraid to share an idea or two there. So moving the ball at pace, using width, in possession, transitioning from defence to attack, moving from one zone to the next. Turn defence into attack. Transition from attack to defence. The movement, the moment the attacking team loses the ball, now becomes the defending team. Some great stuff, guys. Some great stuff. So, changing from possession to out of possession and vice versa. From David, very good. So, we'll some great stuff there, okay, and we'll come back to some of those. But for now, I think what we'll do is we'll just take a look at the next slide here. From the coaches. So more or less the word transition, what does it mean? Well, it's straightforward enough. Okay, so transition is literally the process of moving from one state to another. Okay, so just literally moving from one place to another. You see the words associated with transition there: change, move, passage, transformation, conversion, adaptation. Okay, so if we apply that to Gaelic football, the same key principles remain. So it's the process of moving from one state to another. So in the game of Gaelic, or soccer, or rugby, whatever invasion game we're playing, the same key principles apply in transition play. And then is obviously attacking, transition from attacking, transition to defend, defending, and then transition to attack. So something I probably said before, and I feel as if I'm beating the drum over and over and over again. Transition is not a new word. Like it's not a word that is just like come out of nowhere. Like transition has always existed for hundreds of years. It's a word that's in the dictionary. We use it to describe that ability to transition from attack to defense, and from defense to attack. That's what we use it for. So there's our key phases of play. Okay, so attacking play, defending play, and our ability to move from those quicker is obviously then going to give us a better holding and foothold in the game. So for me, how do I define transition play? Well, it's pretty straightforward. Okay, so here's my definition. And just last week, I know we're running the coaching clinics last week, or the last 3 weeks in January. And you know, one of the things that I talked about, coaches, was the mindset change. You know, the mindset change. So for me, transition play is literally everywhere in the game. It's everywhere in the game. So a ball goes dead, you're straight away, your inside line, you're hoping that your inside line is focused and really, really switched on to press the kick out. Okay, ball goes dead at your end, and you're hoping that your defenders are really engaged and really switched on, looking for that quick kick out. And this, coaches, is a mindset switch. Okay, it's not a physical aspect. For me, it's more a mental aspect. And for me, this is something, coaches, that should be trained and developed, you know, in training on a weekly basis. Your mindset switch. If you look there, every game played in training should consist of a transition element, whether that be from a defensive mindset switch to an offensive mindset switch, or vice versa. And that mentality can be achieved through games, full-sided games, whatever. Okay, with the emphasis of training on speed. So you talk about speed of play, speed of thought, okay, and that's so important. You know, how quickly. The big message that I see transition, and again, I'm not an expert, and this is only my definition. You know, your definition of transition play could be slightly different, but my definition is that it's a mindset switch, just that trigger. And coaches, these are little things that you can work on in training. So, for example, in training, you know, you can obviously have a situation where you might have a trigger. So you might have actually a trigger where you're triggering, a ball goes dead, and it might be a word like switch on. It could be something as simple as switch on. Okay. Or you lose the ball and it's something like win it back, you know, something simple, something simplistic along those lines. So some words to get us thinking, thought-provoking words. Okay, so mindset switch, switch the angle of the attack, fast as possible. We talked about that at the start as well. Fluidity, pace, numbers, width, penetration, depth, decision making. I'll just give you 60 seconds. I'm just going to give you 60 seconds there, coaches. Is there anything, and you just use the chat box there, is there any words that you would add into that? 60 seconds there to ping a few down. Vision, movement, recover, organize, focus, concentration, support, some super stuff. Excellent one, hand or foot, brilliant. Height, super. Okay, so plenty of great ideas, coaches. So just something to be thought-provoking there and give you an idea of buzzwords that you can use. Skill set. What's next? So quickly, just a wee simple visual. So good, fast-breaking teams always pass ahead. And one of the reasons I've used this sort of picture is that for me, basketball is probably one of the quickest transitioning sports on the planet. If you watch like the NBA on Sky Sports, or you flick it on for 10, like flick it on for 5 minutes, and it's astonishing. It's astonishing how quickly the game breaks from one end to the other. And you know, the top teams in Gaelic football now are starting to really look at basketball as a sport. And it's a sport that's very, very common among Gaelic teams in the winter months as well. You know, a lot of teams will play it, but it's fascinating what you can learn, coaches. Really fascinating what you can learn through basketball. Really fascinating. You know, particularly on the transition element of things. You know, and how they break and how they get width and how they get depth. You know, how they make decoy runs, how they get ahead of the ball. You know, simple stuff like that. You know, is really simplistic, but it's so informative as a sport. You can learn so much. I mean, obviously Kieran Donaghy's influence there at Armagh is very evident to see. You know, Dublin had a basketball coach in as well. I remember in 1999, I always sort of tell this story about Manchester United in 1999 when Steve McLaren came in to work with Alex Ferguson. And one of the first things that McLaren suggested to Ferguson was that they bring in a basketball coach. And Ferguson, obviously being Fergie and being a bit, you would probably even label the word old school, was probably like, why do we need a basketball coach? Well, it's the way the game's going in the penalty box, the screening that's going on, etc., etc. And that was in January 1999 that they brought in a basketball coach. And it's actually very iconically ironic that in the Champions League final of that year, the winning goal was scored in the Champions League, the equaliser and the winning goal from two corners. Was it a coincidence? Possibly, quite possibly, okay. But then again, when you look at the work that went on and the movement and different things they got in around the penalty box, maybe it wasn't a coincidence. Maybe it was something that they had learned from and had benefited from. And you can see Dublin as well with the screening that goes on up front, particularly last year, the last couple of years. The understanding that those guys had up front, the backdoor cuts. The backdoor cut is another move that's come from basketball. The 1 in, 4 out, clearing the D, clearing the key, all very, very, very similar movement patterns and all very similar to the sport that we're playing. So what is the most effective way to transition? Well, I think someone put it into the chat box just there when I asked for a bit of feedback. Was someone said hand and foot? Very, very straightforward. Very, very straightforward. Hand and foot is obviously the only two ways that you can attack in Gaelic football is through the hand or through the foot. So counter attacks that are launched with a hand pass are 25% likely to end in a score. Okay, which is an interesting statistic. It enables more players to support the attack and doesn't isolate the passer or the receiver. Counter attacks that are launched with a kick pass are only 12% likely to end in a score. An early delivery from distance to an inside forward won't allow for support play and could possibly isolate the full forward. Now, I think the best example of this to counteract this argument is the goal that Armagh scored on Saturday evening in Croke Park. But when they turned the ball over, I think there was nearly 2 plays before the pass was kicked from Aidan Nugent to Rian O'Neill. Now, the pass from Aidan Nugent was absolutely perfect because it was a 1v1 situation inside, and you'd be encouraging your forwards from the setup zone to get their heads up, look up inside, and deliver that ball. Now, if he had delivered that ball to Rian O'Neill and you had Johnny Cooper behind him and John Small in front of him and Davy Byrne marking him, you'd have been asking serious question marks over why he delivered that ball, and all of a sudden Rian O'Neill's turned over. But the fact that it was 1v1 it's a no-brainer. It's a no-brainer. But I think what this means and what these statistics mean is that when you turn the ball over, if your first pass is a kick pass, you're probably very highly likely to end up too far away to support the next play, unless you have numbers up the field. But if you drop back the way Armagh dropped back on Saturday night, so that 14 back, that left Rio on up front in the zone, if, for example, they had kicked that ball initially straight away and Rio O'Neill had to come out and won that ball in the 45 of the halfway line, there's very, very little support for him and he's isolated. So those first couple of passes are absolutely critical and key into getting the team up the field into the middle third, and the middle third, otherwise obviously known, guys, as the setup zone. So when you're in the setup zone, you're encouraging your players to get their head up, look forward, and make decisions for themselves. So just before we go into some visuals and some videos, every second counts. So after a turnover, the top teams will transition at pace, score within 15 seconds. Mobility is key. And I suppose, again, if I go back to the basketball analogy, and you go back, coaches, and you watch the NBA, and you watch, yes, they'll have their smooth moments, they'll have their crews where they get possession, they run the clock down, they'll bide their time, they'll keep possession if there has to be a slow play. But generally, the really, really top teams will transition at such pace and such precision, and they'll score really, really quickly and really efficiently. And it's the same with Gaelic football. Like that image there is a powerful image that you're looking at. It's I can't tell definite who they are, but for me, it looks like obviously Conley in the middle. It looks like Dean Rock, and it looks like Kieran Kilkenny. Could be possibly Con O'Callaghan. Who knows? It's irrelevant anyway. But what you have is, even on the far side, if you look at the effort that Rock is making to stay up alongside Conley, they're not breaking laboured coaches. They're not breaking, at a really, really slow, mundane pace. They're breaking at a serious pace, a serious tempo. They're looking to go down the throat of the team that they're attacking. And this is the sign of a really top team, a top team that will transition at serious pace and score within 15 seconds. And I suppose if you look at obviously the game now, the way the game is played now, it's all about pace. It's all about pace. Pace is king. Pace is king. And even the club semi-final on Saturday evening between Kilcoo and St Finbars, even the pace of Kilcoo in extra time, obviously had a huge burn on the outcome of the game. Huge burn on the outcome of the game, and mobility is everything now. And I suppose if we go back maybe 25 years ago to the late 90s when, it was all about size and brawn and power and big, strong, robust teams. Those teams might not count in the modern game now. Like the best way for me, Dublin, and this is something we had a conversation about. If you look at the physique of the top teams, the Tyrones, the Dublins, the Kerrys, it's nearly that 800-meter type runner physique. It's just long, lean muscles, really athletic, really powerful, but can make those runs repeatedly and can make them at pace. And that's the key. That is the key. Mobility is the absolute key when you're looking your team to transition, whether that be through the hands or with the foot. So first clip, coaches. Hope it plays for us now. I don't know why it's not going to play. Oh God. Let's see if I can play this here at all. Can we see that? Yeah. Anybody give me the heads up there?
Yeah, I can see that, Stevie. Yep.
Yeah, so I might just have to minimize, guys. I might just have to minimize the screen there just to play this, okay?
Stevie, I'd say you could probably play it a couple of times because it's a bit jagged.
Oh, I'm gonna play it 5 or 6 times. So just let you have a look at that, coaches, 3 or 4 times there, okay? And then we'll have a chat about it. So it's Kieran McGeary in the All-Ireland semi-final this year. Launches a counter-attack. Peter Hart draws the man. I think he gives it to Myler. I think it's Myler. Sludden, I think maybe, is it? And then he gives it to McKenna, who puts it in the net. Okay, so I'll just stop it there, coaches. So I'll play it once more, and then I'll just stop it. I'll chat to you for a bit. So it's McGeary starts the attack. Lovely presentation of the pass, timing of the pass to Peter Hart. Peter Hart doesn't give the ball too early. Perfect timing, ball in front of the man. Lovely presentation, chest, round the keeper, net. So, coaches, what I'll do is I'll just stop there. So what had actually happened in this play, coaches, in the All-Ireland semi-final was that Kerry had just turned the ball over. So literally just before that, Kerry had turned the ball over and McGeary had intercepted it. So you're looking at McGeary on the ball now, okay? And there's a second counter in the bottom of the screen there. Breaks the first tackle, beautiful offload. Tyrone have created a mini overload. Presentation's perfect. Jenna pulls away and the ball hits the net on 16 seconds. So after turning Kerry over 16 seconds later, and for me, a fantastic image is the body language of the Kerry players. Head in the air, head down, distraught, looking up to the clouds. This man here, keeper on the ground. It's a demoralizing blow to a team, coaches. An absolute demoralizing blow to a team when a ball is walked into the net like that, at such ease, but with such precision and power and pace. And again, we go back to our previous slides of the 15-second rule. The ball, from the moment it left his boot, or from the moment he picked up possession, 15 seconds, that ball's in the back of the net. And again, transitioning, middle third, Peter Hart, pause there, head up, look forward. What has he got? He smells an overload. So he smells the overload. He doesn't kick inside to a man inside, okay? He waits, he creates the 3v2, changes the angle of the attack. So he's just changed the angle of the attack, okay? He's got Kerry moving now. He's got Kerry where he's got Kerry chasing, not facing. Marty Clark talked about this the other night. So look at the body position of the Kerry defenders. Horrible position to be in. Horrible position to be in when you're chasing the ball. Ball slipped in, net. Very, very good transition. Really, really good transition from Tyrone. It's another transition clip from Tyrone. Again, it's an animation which goes into a video. So it's about playing through the lines. Kieran McKeever ran this game at a coaching day that he was involved in school. So the first option, again, we just go back a touch. We just go back slightly. So what has actually happened is it's a turnover ball. It's a turnover ball. Okay, it's the fullback, McNamee, kicks the ball out to the halfway line to McKenna. McKenna looks up inside, kicks a beautiful ball into Derek Canavan, 2v2, and Canavan puts it in the net. So we'll go back there again just to this. So we're about 11 seconds on the clock at the turnover. McNamee out to McKenna, playing through the lines, head up, look forward, middle third, 2v2 inside, kicks it inside, one touch, bang, net, 26 seconds. So we're looking at 11 seconds, 15 seconds from turnover to net. There's two prime examples of Tyrone, both running the ball and kicking the ball. You know, so the first pass is the kick pass. He's got the outlet. Okay, he's not kicking 70 yards. He's kicking 30 meters into space. There's plenty of options for him there. He's got options inside if he wants to turn inside. He's got options behind. But more importantly, he's got options down the field. So when he looks up inside, what does he see inside? He sees a 2v2 inside. Now, I think that's Aidan O'Shea in the picture. Okay. So if Aidan O'Shea is playing as a sweeper in here, in between these two players, would that kick pass be the right option? Probably not. Probably not. But he sees the 2v2 inside. He decides that kicking is the best form of transition this time and puts it in the net. So we'll just show it once more. Turn the ball over. Head up, look forward. Outlet pass. Great movement from McKenna. Head up football. Great ball inside. 2v2. And only one outcome. Only one outcome. So just come back, coaches, to show you that little game. It's a game that you can play in training on a condensed pitch. Play it through the lines. So you must make a pass in each zone. That's the rules of the game. The first pass can be a hand pass or whatever. Or you can make two passes in each zone. But the ball must move through the lines. And you can put whatever variations you want on it. Okay. And there's a simple little game that you can play at training on a condensed pitch. 6v6 coaches, maybe 30 meters apart. And these are the rewards that you'll get whenever you're playing those sort of games in training. You'll get these rewards there. Just moving on to the next video. Just going to keep it minimized, coaches, because I don't seem to be able to play them on the bigger screen. Okay, this is again is a kick out. Okay, it's from a league game I was involved in 3 years ago, Carlo and Louth, actually, in Netwatch Cullen Park. We would have spent an enormous amount of time on our kickouts. We would have prided ourselves on scoring goals from kickouts. I think we would have got maybe 7 or 8 goals a season on kickouts. It's a set piece, okay, but it's also a form of transition. It's also a form of transition. And in this kickout in particular, what we like to do here was we like to flood our defense with maybe 7 or 8 players, draw the opposition in. This guy here is the key in it all, but we're isolating the big man, but we're also leaving 3 up front. And we're looking to kick the ball as quick as possible. So we'll play it out a few times. Okay, head up, look forward, kick into space, 3v3 inside. Brendan breaks the tackle, creates a 3v2. Beautiful presentation. Sean round the keeper, tap into the empty net. And if you look there from boot to finish, so keeper kicks the ball out, 2 seconds on the clock. Dara palms it down to Lee. Head up, look forward, kicks into space. Okay. Really, really good transition play. Really good transition play. Moving from one place to the other, round the keeper, net. 17 seconds, two from the keeper net. So 15 seconds, 15 seconds from boot to net. Okay, from kick out. And again, coaches, the way teams press your kick out now, these are things that you should be looking to exploit as a coach. Can you exploit an opposition, and can you create? So these two guys here are completely alienated from the game. They know exactly what's going on. If he decides to go in there, he's going to crowd the space. But what we have is we have left a triangle up front, okay, which gives the kicker so many options. The kicker can go over the triangle. It can play in front of it. Okay, there can be a lateral movement of the triangle that these two can switch. Okay, man inside is a point man with a bit of depth. It's absolutely perfect. It's a perfect situation, perfect positioning, and the big man breaking the tackle. Once you break tackles, games open up. And these situations here, coaches, just go back. I'll just go back 3 seconds there to this situation here, where Brennan has the ball. So this situation here, 3v2, you know, we would have ran a lot of transition games in training. We would have run a lot of 3v2s, 5v4s, 6v4s, creating those little mini overloads. And the reason we would have done it is because when you put yourselves into these situations here, to be fair to the lads, 9 times out of 10, they would have made the right decision on the ball in front of goal. And again, that was critically and hugely important. Okay. So doesn't matter what level you're playing at, what team you are, you have an opportunity to really develop your team through a number of avenues on transition play, whether it be the hands, the kick, or the foot. So restart speed. So again, coaches, this man here in goals probably revolutionized Gaelic football a number of years ago. So way back in the late noughties, 2010ish, around that time, kick out speed was around about 15, 20 seconds for a kick out on average. Okay. And this guy went away with the Dublin development squad coaches, and they decided that they were going to get the kick out speed under 8 seconds. Okay. So a big part of their game, guys, was to try and get the kick outs down to 8 seconds. Okay. And that was huge. That was absolutely huge. Like, so more than 6 seconds, the percentage of your scoring opportunities drops by 20%. So if you can get the kick out away in 8 seconds, inside 6 or 8 seconds, you have an 80% chance of creating a scoring opportunity, right? You have an 80% chance of creating a scoring opportunity. Now, if you think about this, coaches, if the ball goes dead and you're switched on, the forward line might take 10 to 15 seconds to switch on. If you have a kick out away inside that 6-8 seconds, you're building straight away. And this is a massive part of transition. This is as equally an important part of transition as running the ball or kicking the ball or playing at the field. Restarts. I think there was a stat emerged there from our coaching clinics during the week from Colin Trainer, stats man with Kerry. Colin's an Armagh man, lovely fella. Colin gave a couple of stats to me from the championship last year. Generally in the championship, 37% of kickouts, 37% of scores originated from a team's own kickout. So like over a third of your scores will come from your kickouts. So the quicker you get your kickouts away, the more chance you have of creating a scoring opportunity. It's not the more chance you'll have of scoring. You still need a score, but there's more chance of creating a scoring opportunity. So transitioning between big and small or small and big. Okay. Simple philosophy. When you lose the ball, you want to make the pitch as small as possible. And when you win the ball, you want to make the pitch as big as possible. So you're looking at that and you're probably thinking to yourself, well, what does that mean? The pitch is the same size and it's always going to be the same size. The pitch size is never going to change. But you can make the pitch smaller by how you play. And you can make the pitch bigger by how you play. So how do you do that? Well, here's a couple of examples. Okay, so Blue team have the ball, okay, and they're looking to make the pitch as big as possible. So by widening the pitch, by creating a bit of height, a bit of depth, okay, what they're trying to do there is they're trying to develop some driving lanes for people to run into, okay, or to try and manipulate and create kicking channels. Making the pitch extremely big, you're forcing the opposition to be stretched, and you're allowing for scoring options. Also, that's something Marty Clark talked about at our coaching clinic during the week, was defensively, you're also setting your team up for the counter attack. So by setting up like this, it's great, okay, but you also have the man out the back, okay, just in case that move breaks down. So you're not left with a Mayo situation like we've seen in the video against Tyrone, where it's 2v2 inside. If that ball breaks down here, you know, yes, we have numbers forward, we have numbers high, we have numbers wide, but we also have a balance in defense as well. And that allows us then to cover the space in front of our full back line if the ball breaks down. By creating height and depth, okay, you're forcing the opposition to do two things. Okay, one, they have to go out in some stage and engage, okay? They can't just sit in here. If they're going to sit in here, these men might sweep around the back, okay? But you're looking for your forward line as well to make incisive runs across the D, clear the D. Maybe 15 might come out, 14 might go in. Okay, a lot of variety in your runnings. Maybe a decoy run from 9 straight through the middle. Okay, so you're trying to make the pitch as big as possible and give your team the best possible chance at creating scoring opportunities. Okay. And then the flip side of that is the complete opposite. So the blue team are losing the ball, okay, or have lost the ball, and they're looking to make the pitch as small as possible. So Blues don't want a big pitch now because they don't have the ball. Okay, so how do you do it? Well, they're going to try and narrow the pitch by marking zonally. Okay, they're letting the wide men stay out there. Going to call them dead zones. So they're not going to follow their men to the sideline. They've good defensive lines in place to accommodate a fast counterattack no matter where the ball's turned over. So the Tyrone situation, okay, where McGeary turns the ball over here, all right, and he's got men ahead of the play. He's getting men ahead of the play, okay? You might do the Rion O'Neill factor. You might leave one up or two up, okay, if you're defending narrowly and zonally, okay? You might leave them up. If you leave 2 men up or 3 men up or 1 man up, whatever it happens to be, it gives you an outlet of a kicking counterattack as well as a running counterattack, okay? But a sort of staggered defensive line does allow for you, no matter where you turn the ball over, to be able to accommodate that fast counterattack. And if we go back a couple of slides, coaches, if we go back a couple of slides to the good teams that break fast will break forward. And that's the key thing. If the first pass is forward and the first play is positive, then obviously you're going to break more efficiently and more effectively. If the player turns the ball over and turns sideways, passes the ball sideways, or passes the ball back, then obviously your counterattack is going to be a lot slower, a lot more labored, okay, and a lot more stagnant. And you're not going to have that sort of really, really fast, quick, hard transition that you're hoping to coach and develop. So transition play can be coached. Okay, it can be coached. We should be striving to implement some form of transition play in every single training session we take. Okay, and it's even more important to integrate a scoring element to the games and training. Just before I show a couple of more videos, coaches, is there any reason why, and you can throw this into the chat to give you 60 seconds or a couple of minutes, why would it be important to have a scoring element in the games that you're playing at training? Is there any particular reason? Now, well, obviously we need a score to win the game. Obviously that's the most standout reason, but is there any other reason why you would include that to help coach transition? Anybody want to fire anything in there or share anything? Is there anything that would be stand out why you would look to incorporate a scoring element to your game and training? Just be curious to know what your thoughts are, coaches. couple coming in there. So it makes it real. Focus after the turnover. Players know what to do if they have an overload. Keeps intensity levels in the game. End result. Sharpens the focus. Gets the ball moving with purpose. Awareness. Reward for play. Yeah. Can't be over reliant on one player scoring. Excellent. Okay. So yeah, brilliant stuff, coaches. So like we're looking at a number of things, some great ideas there, coaches. Like for me, what happens after a score? Well, after a score, there's a kicker, and like for me, this is a key thing. Like it's if you have so many young players that when a ball goes dead, particularly young players, they really, really struggle to switch on. They really struggle to switch on. So by having a scoring element in training, the game doesn't end with the scoring element. Okay. The game continues with a kick out. So you're asking young players then to switch on with a kick out. And that might be a little trigger, or it might be a buzzword, or whatever it happens to be. Contact, switch on, next kick out, whatever it happens to be. Okay, but I think that's vitally important when incorporating a scoring element to your games and training. You're then continuing with a kick out. You're continuing the game with a kick out. Never finish. When a player scores, never finish the game, because that's not how a game finishes in real life. So you always want to have a kick out, because that transition, that's your mindset switch, coaches. That's your mindset switch from attack to defense, and from defense to attack. So here's a wee game. Here's a wee game I played in school training. Okay, so again, there's an under 15 team. Under 15 team in school. Okay, simple little transition game. Looking at creating a little bit of width. Okay, handling was important. Scoring element was important. Okay, so the lads are going to wee bit of width on. Great interchange, great passing, great finish for a goal. Okay, so I'll just play that again, and I'll play a couple of times. So lads start at their knees, gives the defenders a chance to press them to get close to space down. But if you look at the young lads here now, look at the width they put on the play. So these two lads on this side here decided to go wide. Okay, to open up the space. A 2v2 here, mini overload created, 2v1, bang, great finish. Keeper no chance. And again, a simplistic wee exercise, just getting the lads switched on, transitioning through the hands. Okay. Young lads loved it as well. There's a scoring element in that, and then you're looking at the keeper then. So I should actually play the video out, because the keeper then gets up, takes a quick kick out, and the jerseys then attack this goal here that's empty, and they're looking for a fisted score then. Okay. Another little game. So this game, coaches, is about consistently moving between defense to attack and attack to defense. Okay. So it's about consistently moving from attack to defense. So it starts with a 5v3, which is 5v5. Okay. Pass overcooked. Then it becomes a 7v5. There's a kick pass. Next pass probably should have been a hand pass. He sort of slips it along the ground with a kick, lifts it up, slips, puts it wide. Should have been a score. And then it finishes then with a 7v7. So it's constantly, young lads are constantly having to engage, switch on, move between defense and attack, mindset switches. So these are just little triggers. And again, most of these lads are only 14. Okay. But we're just trying to get them to think a little bit quicker. Oops, sorry, go back to that a wee bit. Just trying to get them to think a little bit quicker. Okay. Moving between defense to attack. All right. And again, like, these games are all new to a lot of these lads. They never have seen them before. They're having to switch on. They're having to think quickly. All of a sudden, they're attacking. All of a sudden, they're defending. Okay, there's a scoring element at the end of it. Bang, away they go. This man could have been away a lot quicker. Okay. But again, you're looking at your defenders to face it, not chase it. You're looking at your forwards to punch holes. You're looking to make the right decision on the ball. Okay, and you're looking to transition at pace and ultimately have scoring element at the end of it. So just a wee brief summary, coaches. Okay. Apologies there at the start for the little breakdown in technology. Unfortunately, when you're doing Zooms and the likes of that, you can't be guaranteed that your internet connection is always going to be stable. I was upstairs in the room, so I don't know what happened there, but we got there in the end anyway. But just a brief summary. transition play through the hand, with the foot, pace, mobility, mindset switch, some of those key words that if you bring those into your training sessions with some of the ideas that we've introduced there tonight, it's a very, very difficult topic to try and get across in a Zoom. It's much easier to do in a pitch. The sessions we had over the last couple of weeks there in our school were absolutely fantastic. I know Kieran has got access to them now on the website, which is brilliant for you as coaches because there's some fantastic ideas. Benny Coulter's session on the first night was all about transition play. And it was really, really good, really insightful. Some really good practical ideas that you can take away. There's some videos there tonight for you as well on this Zoom that you can take away to your own training as well. But the key message, coaches, tonight, the key message that I can give you tonight is that this is a consistent thing that needs implemented in training. It's not something that's just going to happen for you overnight. It's not something that's just going to click for you automatically in a match. Geez, our transition play was brilliant tonight. You need to be doing it all the time in training, putting young people into these situations. And when I say young people, because those are the people that switch off the most probably during games, they find it harder to really engage after a kick out, whatever it happens to be. Okay, so really, really focus on producing a consistent message at training, putting players in those situations, implement a scoring element to each game, okay, and really focus on that quick mindset switch between attack and defense and attack. So I think we've gone close to the time, but I'm sure we can take a couple of minutes there, coaches, for any questions or anybody wants to show any questions or anybody has. We can fire away. We're a few minutes. We lost a few minutes at the start there, Kieran. So if we want to fire a few questions there, coaches, please feel free.
Good stuff, Stevie. Very interesting. Yeah. If I think anybody has any questions, do shout them in now. If we don't have any questions, we won't have any answers.
If you even want to stick them in the chat box, if you're not comfortable speaking, it's fine.
I know some coaches often will say, try and transition with a certain amount of passes out of defense, up like 5 or whatever to get into an attacking zone. Some coaches look at timing and try and get into an attacking zone within 10 seconds. Would you go with any of that, or is it just too random? Like from what you're saying there, it's hand and it's foot. You got width and depth in the attack. Would you go by any metrics to try and get a target on either a time out of defense to attack or the amount of passes?
Oh, absolutely. Like, sure, you can put any variation on a game, Roderick. And what you can do is you can put a time limit on your small set of games. That the players have a certain amount of time. So what that'll do is a trigger. Like I think one of the games I ran last week in our school coaching day, I actually remember the game was a wee bit laboured. It was a wee bit slow. It was a bit laboured. And I said to the coaches, how would you change this? How would you actually get a game going quicker? And one of them said, put a time limit on the score. That's what you can simply do in a small set of game. Put a time limit on the score. Put a limit on passes through each zone. You might only be able to make 2 passes, but the danger about putting restrictions on in an actual game is when we go to play a game, it's an open environment. So you don't know what the opposition are going to do. You don't know what the weather is going to do. You don't know what decision the player is going to have to make depending on variable factors, like there might be 3 men around him at that time. So if players have a trigger in the head, geez, I'm only allowed 3 passes out of the defensive zone here. It's very restrictive, and sometimes it can play in a player's head. But certainly during training, put those little restrictions on in your mini games, put your time limits on, put your restrictions on passing on the 3-second rule. Great John Morrison used to run the wee simple game, 3 seconds on the ball and move the ball, and it lifted the pace of the game. And simple wee things like that will really, really get players moving with a bit more pace and a bit more precision and a bit more power and a bit more direct. But you've got to remember, there's moments where it might be, I don't want to sound contradictory here because I talked about good, fast teams breaking forward, but it might be a situation where you might have to make 1 pass back before you can make 2 passes forward. And that might be the situation, but you have to just play the game as you see it. I think, Kieran, there's a couple of questions in the chat box here.
Yeah, can I touch on one from Ken Rowsome? So he mentioned about what fitness runs to do and what speed, which Stevie, if okay, I might quickly answer that myself first before I then link to it.
Yeah.
Just with that one, I think there are two things you can do. There are mass runs, which is, you've probably heard of a maximum aerobic speed runs. So what that is anything from 75 meters up to about 95 meters. So it's nearly the length of the pitch. Every player then has 15 seconds to get from that to from the start to the end, and then they're static, so they rest completely for 15 seconds, and that's one repetition. So that's 15 seconds up, rest for 15. Complete that 8 times, so that's 8 repetitions. That's 4 minutes in total. Rest for a minute or even a minute and a half, and then do 3 sets of that. So in other words, you've got 3 sets, 8 repetitions, 15 seconds on, 15 seconds off. And if you think about it, you're running nearly the length of the pitch. Now, if you can go into greater detail about the fitter lads should go 95 meters, the middle fitness guys do 80 meters or 85 meters, and then the less fit guys do less, then they do maybe 70 or 75. And there are tests to do that. Yeah, so somebody asked just how many sets for mass. I would go, you can start with 2 sets of 4 minutes, 8 repetitions, build up to 3 sets is usually quite a good one. And then as they get fitter, you increase the distance a little bit. The other one on top of that then, obviously, is their max speed work. So as Stevie says all the time, obviously, is these guys need to be fit, but also fast to get from one end of the pitch to the other. So obviously your max speed work, and that's like your 40 meters as fast as you can, normally for about, 5 or 6 seconds, and then lots of recovery time in between. Steve, I was just going to ask you quickly, linked in with that one. You were saying about there's a challenge there where if you're in a strong defensive setup and unit, and you're not sitting back, but you're filling out those positions. You're not worrying about out wide on the wings, as you said. You're more central, staying compact and everything like that. There's an issue then when there's a quick turnover and you need to get up the pitch at speed, but you got a lot of men back. Like what's the answer to that kind of conundrum, or that is a problem always?
Yeah,
it's going to be an issue, isn't it, that you have to overcome?
I think here it's a prime example of it. Probably is very much when you watch Kilcoo playing now as well at club level. You can actually thought there were coaches can learn a lot from watching, even though it's club level. You can still learn an awful lot from the top club teams. And that's one thing that they do very well, along with top end county seats, is they get. I think someone mentioned it in the chat box there, a major key point about getting ahead of the ball. I've said this for a number of years now. The key when you transition is to get ahead of the ball, making those really hard, Kieran, unselfish runs. And it links in with your own answer there. If you haven't done the conditioning work and you're bluffing and you're going to set up like that and you think that you're going to be able to play like that, you won't be able to. You need a serious high level of conditioning. And that's why, Kieran, your Kerrys, your Dublins, your Tyrones, your Monaghans, that's why these teams are at the level they're at, because their level of conditioning is absolutely outstanding. Their ability to make those runs repetitively from 21 to 21, as you would probably call it, is just, it's phenomenal. It's phenomenal, and that's the same at club level as well. The level of conditioning that Kilcoo have is for me probably greater than any club side at the present moment in time. And they've got themselves in a serious peak physical condition, and you have to hand it to them. They sacrifice themselves. They put football first, and that's a huge aspect at the highest level. And teams at a lesser level can't understand why they can't transition like Tyrone or Dublin or Monaghan, because they're not physically capable of doing it. And that's the reality. That is the reality, and unless you are physically in really, really good condition, you can't play like that. But one thing, Kieran, you talked about, if you're narrow and you're deep, you've got to get high and wide. You've got to get high and wide, and you've got to get ahead of the ball, and you've got to get depth. And if that means someone just making a lung buster run to get inside to pull 2 defenders with them, so be it. But not all the time, Kieran, will that happen. There will be times where the game will evolve naturally, like you seen the moment the other night in the Dublin Armagh game where there was passes to play. It was great. It was lovely to watch. And Croke Park obviously makes a difference. And you're watching the game in Croke Park, conditions are lovely, pitch is smooth, pitch is great to play on. And then you flick on Sunday in Markovitz Park and there's a 50-mile-an-hour crossfield wind and the pitch, you're up to your ankles in mud. Like that's not Mayo or Donegal's fault. That's just the winter weather. It's winter football. It's the pitch, it's the conditions. So, like, when you're watching games now, there is elements of the game that are lovely to watch, and then there's elements of the game that aren't so pretty. But that'll happen in all sports. There's all sports where there'll be periods where a team will get behind the ball, team will defend deep, and a team will defend narrow. Maybe it's a 5-10 minute block where they just don't want anything to happen, and that will happen. But what makes it ugly is when you can't transition and you can't get ahead of the ball, and then it becomes stagnant and it becomes a bit more lateral and a bit more crabby like across the field. That's not really that enjoyable, and that's when probably supporters' frustration comes into fray, But no, unquestionably conditioning's huge.
Yeah, and I think it depends on the moment of the game, doesn't it? That there are times when you want to, as they call it, manage the game, hold on to possession. Maybe you haven't had the ball in a while, so you just want to kind of hold on to it and get your way back into the game. And other moments, obviously, to attack at speed. One Stevie, I quite like this one actually from Rory, who said, "How would you recommend to effectively transitioning to an offensive scoring opportunity for an aging senior men's team or women's team, I presume?" Can I just add in one thing with that? I think, and I'm interested in your answer, obviously. I mean, sometimes transitions break down through inefficiency. So by losing the ball, of course, you want to go at speed and you want to go as fast as possible. But usually transitions will break down, won't they, from somebody often kicking away the ball or hand passing away the ball or whatever. So one of my things to answer that question would be, don't give away the ball, when you're going at speed. And so you're probably going to be teaching those guys or women to be efficient in their transition. They may not be going as fast as you would like them to, but make sure that they keep the ball when they're transitioning.
Yeah, and listen, you've got to play the hand that you're dealt with too, Kieran. Like if you've got to, like for example, I don't think Monaghan are going to ask Conor McManus to drop back to his own D and break from deep because he's 35, 36 years of age. They're going to leave Conor McManus up front. They're going to leave Conor McManus hovering on the outside of a defensive cord, and they're going to leave Conor McManus where he can come in the loop, where he can get himself in a little scoring pockets. They're going to use his strengths. They're not going to ask a man at 35, 36 to go back and put a shift in, in the same way as a Niall Scully or a Myler or a McGeary. He's not going to do that, So you look at your strengths, you look at who you have, you look at your scoring options, you look at your playmakers, you get the right personnel on the ball, Kieran, as you say, and you use the ball efficiently and effectively and wisely.
Yeah, very good. I like this one from Jared Brady. I have some thoughts about this one, I'm sure, and Stevie, you will too. Just in terms of working with an adult team coming in at the start of the year, maybe it's a new team and everything like that. How much emphasis do you put on the tactical side of the game at the beginning of the year, and does that proportion of your coaching and training change throughout the year then, let's say coming into championship? I think it's a really good question.
Yeah, see, the problem, Jared, that we have with an adult team, particularly a club team, is your contact time. So your contact time with a team is very, very limited, Kieran. It's 3 nights a week, it's 1 hour, it's 90 minutes. County teams are a bit different because you can place those demands. You can do your 5 or 6 nights a week and no one raises an eyebrow about it because it's perceived at the highest level. But in club teams, you've got a lot more dynamics, in both ladies and men's teams. You've got different dynamics. People have their own lives going on. People have families, people have relationships, people have children, and it takes up a lot of time, and to place those demands on a club player that you're asking that you would place on a county player. So you've got to balance it, Jared. You've got to balance it. And I think your contact time with the players, you're just looking so much. You're looking to get them fit. You're looking to get them well conditioned. You're looking to get them tactically switched on. You're looking to improve the technical elements of their game as well, their skill refinement levels. There's so much that you're looking to do in such a short period of time. And sometimes it can become very overwhelming and it can become very, Jesus, I have so much to do. What I would say is just building blocks. Just take a pen and a piece of paper, building blocks, small bits every night. If it's a small bit of tactical work every night, small bit of tactical work, small bit of conditioning, small bit of technical development, small to get a bit of decision making. If you're doing something every night and you're reinforcing it every night, it's the mud to the wall. You keep firing mud at the wall, eventually it'll stick. And I think one of the things we've learned out of lockdown over the last 2 years is what we're doing right now. A Zoom, you know, that you can sit in the house, in your kitchen, comfort of your own home. You're not asking, you know, men or women teams to come out an extra night of the week. They can do it in the comfort of their own living room. They can do it in the comfort of their kitchen, in their bedroom, whatever it happens to be. And you're not placing huge mental and physical demands on them. And it can be a 30-minute Zoom session, Jared, just on tactical work. You know, so that's something to think about moving forward.
Yeah, I agree. And as well, there are lots of little aspects that you can drop into practices, and if you want to call them drills or games or whatever, right throughout the session. It doesn't have to be a full-on 15 lined out or goalkeeping kickouts, running through stuff. You can be doing like a warm-up, and I would always be dropping in little things about, like, you know, head up, look forward or whatever, and it can be part of a warm-up. But in general, Jared, I would expect that as the season goes on, the emphasis and time that you put towards the tactical team play and all will increase. You know, just as, for instance, the conditioning will decrease. So in pre-season and early season, you'll have a huge amount of conditioning, and then as the season goes on, it'll decrease. And it's all about fitting those pieces into a jigsaw. Stevie, we might just finish up, but there's one more from Fintan Kennedy. I like it. He's really putting you on the spot here, Fintan. Fair play. I like your head up, look forward mantra. Have you others that help reinforce the key points?
Yeah, well, what, you know, I suppose Fintan, the head up, look forward is something that I would use with the young lads in school quite a lot. Like, you know, always constantly trying to reinforce that message to him, because young people, not even, I tell you the truth, Fintan, I'm going to be honest, like, not even young people, but senior inter-county players, some of the very first decisions that they do is that they actually get the ball and take a touch, take a play, and they don't understand that when they take a play, their heads go down. So you're always looking that sort of head up, look forward, because you're obviously trying to promote positive play among young people. You're looking young people to be positive in their approach, get the ball, move it forward if they can with a foot. If not, then obviously take all their options. But, you know, other key points, just something that come into my head here. You put me on the spot, obviously, with this, but say a key point about pace. Okay, so you're looking at kicking the ball, I know, and I'm stealing quotes from everybody here, because it was again, I refer to John Morrison quite a bit, because he was immense. He was so far ahead of his time, it was just unbelievable. But John used to have this mantra, you know, hit spaces, not faces. So when you're kicking the ball, you know, don't kick down the throat of the defender or the forward, put it outside him. And if you put the ball outside him in space and not face, you know, the forward's always going to win that ball. Like, so hitting spaces, not faces. The other wee thing as well about pace, like, is that very, very straightforward. You know, defender hates two things, you know, pace and space. So therefore, try and suffocate the space in front of the defender. Try and get your cover on. All the little bullet points, all the little buzzwords, like we would have used a simple one of just switch on. You know, when the ball goes dead, switch on. So they're switching on. So switch on means, where's my man? Where's the ball? Two wee simple questions. Where's my man? Where's the ball? So you're switching on. You're looking around. Right, there's my man. There's the ball. Right, should I split him or should I go man to man? Should I press? That's another little pun. Another one, Fintan, I suppose, is the cruise zoom cruise. You know, when you've got the ball, numbers are back. Somebody makes the call, cruise. And I got this from over with Bernard Jackman, the time the Newport Dragons. Like, you know, they had little puns, little calls. Armagh used the word smooth. You can hear Donaghy along the sideline, smooth basketball terms. So when they get the ball, opposition are set up, smooth. Keep the ball, you know, bide your time, patient. Whereas Zoom, when you look up, you see 2v2 inside, you see a mini overload on, go at them at pace, go at them hard, go at them down the throat, you know. So listen, Fintan, the best advice I can give you is come up with your own. Come up with your own. You know, we had 12 or 13 calls when we were Ricardo at the time, like, and, you know, they were simple but effective, you know, when the players just knew them. I fired them on a PDF one night, fired them into the group. Players just got to know them. And they're just simple calls and games that triggered, you know, my resting the ball. So there was a period of yo-yo football, as I would call it, where it was manic. And, you know, there was maybe 2 or 3 scores in a row for the opposition. And we'd maybe turn the ball over 3 or 4 times. So rest on it. So the players knew for the next minute we kept possession at all costs. Nothing happened. Just keep possession. You know, take the sting out of the game, control the game. These are all things, Fintan, that were unique to us. You know, like we had a call 9-all, 9 to go. So what that meant was in 2017, with 9 minutes to go in the Monaghan game in the championship on Sky TV, like, you know, it was a big thing for Carlo lads. It was 9-all with 9 minutes to go. Carlo had 4 massive plays, and kicked the ball away on all 4 occasions. So we had a call then in training the following year, 9-all, 9 to go. So when that meant 9-all, 9 to go, that was the teacup time. That was shit the nest moment. You had to literally say, right, look, this is where we need to be level head, cool heads. Like, and when you think back to it, like there was a passage of play, and I was actually sent it to Danielson Ledger the other night. The game wasn't live, but we played Louth in the championship, and there was, I think, 4 minutes left on the clock, and the ball dropped into Robbie Malloy's arms, and we were 5 or 6 points up at the time. We made 39 consecutive passes. Every player in the team touched the ball. We kept the ball for 2 minutes and 10 seconds, and the ball ended up in the back of the net with Paul Broderick at the other end. So we had 39 consecutive passes. Now, that would never be highlighted on any TV show because they don't even watch the games in RTE. So they certainly weren't going to analyse Cardo and Louth, I can tell you. But it was something that really, really left us as a group, with huge satisfaction to say, these lads have learned an awful lot. Last minute against Kildare, pressure on, ball into the defender's hands on his own end line. Keep the ball, bump, back of the net again. So these are lessons that they learned on a simple call of 9-all, 9 to go. Now, 9-all, 9 to go, no, people would have been going, what are they on about? Like, what does that mean? But the players knew what it meant. It was a trigger for them, So make your own Fintan. That's the best advice I can give is come up with your own and keep it simple. Keep it simple. It doesn't have to be, you don't have to speak in Greek or Irish or Spanish or, it doesn't have to be any of that, code or anything. It doesn't have to be binary. Just keep it simple, nice and simple,
Yeah, Fintan, if you want to hear any more of Stevie's, you're going to have to wait a couple of more days and watch the coaching clinic videos, which will be up on the website in the coming days. Stevie, I'm supposed to be doing my PhD article writing tomorrow, but I'll be doing processing Marty Clark's video, getting it over the line. So it'll be up in the next couple of days. So it'll be really interesting to see
good
those
stuff,
three
Kieran.
videos.
It's well worth it. Well worth it.
It's brilliant stuff. It's really, really good stuff. Okay, thanks, Stevie. As always, I think this is a real area of expertise from you to transitioning, and I think you brought a massive amount of success to Carlo down through the years and other teams through a lot of the principles of play that you spoke about tonight. So as always, thank you very much, and thanks everybody who tuned in. The video will be up before the weekend on the webinar page if you want to look back through it. So thanks very much, everyone.
Thanks, Kieran. Thank you.
Cheers, Stevie.
Thanks, Stevie.